My name is Margaret Hayes. I am 72 years old, and I've learned that some moments in life cut deeper than others. This is the story of one such moment. And what came after. It was a Tuesday morning when I called my son Daniel. Just a regular check-in, the kind mothers do. We talked about the weather, his work at the accounting firm. Then I asked about the wedding plans. There was silence on the other end. The kind of silence that makes your heart skip. Daniel said slowly. Rachel and I got married last Saturday. I stood there in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, trying to understand the words. Last Saturday, 3 days ago, we kept it small, he continued, his voice tight. Just special people. Rachel's family. A few close friends. Special people. The words hung in the air between us. His mother wasn't special enough. I managed to say something appropriate. Congratulations. How wonderful. I don't remember. Exactly. When I hung up, I sat down at my kitchen table and stared at the African violet I had been nurturing for months. It had finally bloomed. I didn't cry. Not then. I just sat there, feeling something shift inside me. You see, I'd raised Daniel alone after his father passed when Daniel was 12. I'd worked 2 jobs to put him through college. I'd been there for every scraped knee, every heartbreak, every triumph. And now, on the most important day of his life, I hadn't been there at all, but I understood. Rachel had never warmed to me. She was beautiful and successful, from a wealthy family. In Connecticut, I was a retired postal worker from the Bronx. At family dinners, I could feel her measuring me, finding me lacking. The wrong accent, the wrong clothes, the wrong everything. Still, Daniel loved her, and I loved Daniel. So I swallowed my hurt and sent them a generous check for $5,000 as a wedding gift. It was most of my savings. But what else do you save money for if not for your children's happiness? A week passed, then another. No thank you note, no call. Then 3 weeks after the wedding, my phone rang. It was Rachel. Margaret, she said, and I noticed she never called me MOM. The rent is overdue on our apartment. Did you send the money? I felt something cold settle in my chest. The money? Daniel said you were sending money. The landlord is threatening eviction. I sent a wedding gift, I said carefully. $5,000. 3 weeks ago. We never received it, Rachel said, her voice sharp. Are you sure you sent it? I was sure. I'd gone to the bank myself, gotten a cashier's check, mailed it with my own hands. But I said I'd look into it. After I hung up, I called the bank. Yes, the check had been cashed. 2 days after the wedding, I asked them to send me a copy of the endorsed check. When it arrived, I stared at the signature on the back. Rachel's signature, neat and elegant. She'd cashed it herself. I sat with that knowledge for a long time. My daughter-in-law had taken my gift, spent it, and then called demanding more. And my son, who I'd raised to know right from wrong, said nothing. I could have called Daniel, could have confronted them, but something in me had changed. I'd spent my whole life being kind, being understanding, putting others first. Where had it gotten me? So I did something I'd never done before. I got creative. I called Rachel back. You're right, I said warmly. I should have sent more. Why don't you and Daniel come for dinner this Sunday? I'll give you cash to help with the rent. She agreed immediately. Of course she did. That Sunday, I cooked all afternoon. Pot roast, just like Daniel loved. Homemade rolls, apple pie. I set the table with my good china. The set my mother had left me when they arrived. Rachel was all smiles. Full smiles, but smiles nonetheless. Daniel looked uncomfortable. Wouldn't quite meet my eyes. We sat down to eat. I served the food, poured the wine, played the gracious hostess. We talked about their honeymoon plans, their apartment, everything except the wedding I hadn't been invited to. Then, as we were finishing dessert, I pulled out an envelope. For you, I said, sliding it across the table to Rachel. To help with the rent. Rachel opened it eagerly. Inside was a check for $1. Her face went red. What is this? Well, I said calmly, I figured since you already cashed the $5,000 wedding gift I sent, you only needed $1 more. The room went silent. Daniel's fork clattered to his plate. You told me you never received it, I continued, my voice steady. But the bank sent me a copy of the endorsed check. Your signature, Rachel. Cashed 2 days after the wedding. Rachel's mouth opened and closed. Daniel turned to look at her. Confusion and then understanding dawning on his face. Did you? He started. She was testing me, Rachel said quickly, her voice rising. Your mother doesn't think I'm good enough. She's always looking down on me. I sent you a gift, I said quietly. Most of my savings, and you lied about it. You called me, pretending it never arrived, asking for more. Daniel stood up. Rachel, is this true? She stood too, grabbing her purse. We're leaving. Your mother is toxic. This is exactly why you weren't invited to the wedding. And there it was, the truth, finally spoken aloud, but Daniel didn't move. He stood there, looking at me, really looking at me for the first time in months. "Mom," he said softly. "I am so sorry." Rachel grabbed his arm. "Daniel, let's go." "No," he said. "I need to talk to my mother." Rachel left. In a fury, Daniel and I sat back down at the table, the remains of our dinner between us. "She convinced me," Daniel said, his voice breaking. "She said small weddings were more meaningful, that you'd understand, that you'd prefer it that way." And I believed her because I wanted to believe her. Because it was easier. "And the money?" I asked. "I didn't know," he said. "I swear to you, Mom, I thought you hadn't sent anything. Rachel handles all our finances." We talked for hours that night. Really talked, for the first time in years. About Rachel, about the ways he'd let me drift to the margins of his life, about how love can make us blind. I didn't tell him to leave her. That wasn't my place. But I did tell him that respect isn't optional, that honesty isn't negotiable, that if someone makes you choose between your family and them, you should think carefully about what that choice means. 3 months later, Daniel moved back home. The marriage didn't last a year. Rachel, it turned out, had lied about a lot. More than just the wedding gift. Was it revenge? What I did that Sunday? Maybe. But it was also truth. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is speak the truth. Even when it hurts. Daniel and I are close again now. He's dating someone new. A teacher named Amy, who calls me Mom and means it. And you know what? When they get married, I'll be there, in the front row, where mothers belong, because that's the thing about love and family. Sometimes kindness means letting people walk away, and sometimes it means standing your ground and refusing to accept less than you deserve. I am 72 years old, and I'm still learning. But this much I know. Respect yourself enough to expect respect from others, even from the people you love most, especially from them.